Hi, I'm Ian and welcome to Executive Grooves. My guest today is Paul Shields, who is the Recruitment and Strategic Projects Director for Northampton Saints Rugby Club. Northampton Saints are consistently one of the best rugby teams in Europe, very successful, and Paul has a significant role at the club. So this is going to be quite an unusual interview, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. So without further ado, here's Paul Shields. Well, hi Paul, welcome to Executive Grooves.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to the chat.
So I always start by going back to my guest's teenage years and asking about what sort of music they were into when they were a teenager.
Well, I guess that it would have started with Guns N' Roses in the early 90s whenever I was growing up. So that would have been Use Your Illusion. That probably would have been the one that was on repeat in my Walkman for a long period of time. Some Bon Jovi in there, leading into, probably went to Nirvana. After that, like everyone else, I then got sucked into the Britpop, Blur and Oasis, more Oasis than Blur during that period for a long, long time, and then evolved towards the end of the 90s, started to enjoy the Prodigy, and then other groups like that really got my attention. I suppose it was really Oasis from that, and then beyond that, it all started to change. He started to get bored and move away from that. But my friends would describe me as pretty eclectic when it comes to my music taste.
Oh, I like eclectic. So how did this eclectic teenager end up as a professional rugby player?
By accident, really. I think when I was coming through, professionalism wasn't really a thing. It came around in 1995. I left school in 1997. Completed school with the hope of going to university to train to be a PE teacher. Realistically, I thought I would be. My journey was to be a PE teacher, be a rugby coach. I still coached when I left school. At university and college, I coached my old school and thought that would be the direction of travel for me. But as I was playing local rugby in Northern Ireland from Belfast, then started to progress. That went quite well. Then an opportunity came to be involved with Ulster Rugby, and that I was delighted to, went with it, and really the opportunity came from there to be full time. I tried to dedicate to both, to being a university student and a rugby player, and was probably not doing either of them particularly well. So paused my university studies to give the professional rugby a crack. Gave it a crack, and it went well. Progressed, and managed to go back and finish my degree when I was a wee bit older. The journey took me then. It was never part of the plan, but I've been involved since 1999, so I've been involved in professional rugby a lot longer than I haven't.
And what were the highest highs that you had in that time as a rugby player?
I think as a player, playing international rugby is probably the highest accolade you can get. I remember coming through the system. I played for Ulster schools and I played for Ulster under-20s, but I never actually made it into the national setup. And I remember playing for Ireland A, my first Ireland A game whenever I was senior, after playing a number of years for Ulster, and that was a special moment for me to actually be able to do that and share it with my family. That was really big for me. But then going on to get your first international cap, once you step on that pitch, you've got a cap, you're international, that's it, and they can't take it away from you. I think that injury is always a tough part of rugby, and not playing. I think what a lot of people, rugby, playing professionally as a sportsman is a real privilege. I'm very lucky to be able to do so. I'm very lucky to say that I was able to play for a long period of time. But what a lot of people, it's a lot of it's a lot of training, and sometimes whenever you train all week and you don't get the opportunity to play, we all become professional to play, and a lot of the
Mhm.
time you don't actually get play. You're out of form, you're out of selection, you're not playing well enough, and you don't get to play as much. So I think a lot of the lows based around where you train all week and you're not getting the chance to play at the weekend and put that into practice and get to play in front of the tens of thousands of people that come along to watch you at the weekend. But that is on me as much as it's on anyone else. I hold no bitter words towards any coaches. I reflect back and go, well, did I do enough to get picked? So those were the difficult times. And the other difficult time is whenever you know that your career is coming to an end. You have that decision to make. And I've always said there's three things that stop you playing. Um, your body won't let you, your mind won't want to, or nobody will contract you. So for me, it came around whenever I picked up a neck injury while playing in Northampton. My eldest son Hugh was born at the time, and I had a neck injury, and I reflected that this was tough, but I was able to go away on I was able to retire on my terms. That I was happy with what I'd done. I played the games. I'd got the um appearances, the caps, won the trophies, and I was happy with my lot and would rather walk away with the ability to be a dad that could play with his kids in the garden and be very active in their life as opposed to trying to eke out a career and keep going for one more year and leave myself in a difficult position. I wanted to walk away healthy or as healthy as I could with the neck injury, and that's what I chose to do. So, but that realization when you know that it's actually over is difficult, and you miss the things I miss were the camaraderie. You miss the camaraderie in the changing room because you go from a changing room of 40 blokes playing rugby, having a laugh, having a really good time, training hard, doing those things is brilliant. But you step away from that, it's a very, very different thing. And I bizarrely missed that feeling the next morning of being absolutely battered from playing, being stiff, being sore, but know that I had put everything out and earned the right to feel that stiff and
Yeah.
soreness. Those are the wee things that you actually miss. Though I wouldn't miss them now, I'm a wee bit older, but whenever you finish, those are the things that I really missed.
And now you've got a significant role at Northampton, which, according to the titles, you are Recruitment and Strategic Projects Director. Tell us a bit about what that involves.
Well, I guess the primary part is the recruitment. That's my bread and butter. So I do all of the contracting for Northampton Saints and their players. That is the scouting of players, the negotiation of contracts, assigning the contracts, the compliance with the salary cap and making sure the club is completely compliant with it to regulate and then work very strongly with the academy in terms of the pathway and their salary cap as well. So that's the focal uh, the main part of my job. The strategic projects is really an evolution of my role that I was looking to further expand and develop and challenge myself. So the strategic projects is really anything that is involved with the club that needs closer looked at and someone basically to run it. So a good example would be the Women's World Cup whenever it was at
Mm.
Franklin's
Yeah.
Gardens. I effectively project managed it with the great team that World Rugby had sent and the great people here at Northampton from the operations and every department. So that is everything from making sure that the pitch was compliant with the size regulations that it had to be, to the corporate, the hospitality, the ticketing, the community aspect, and trying to drive the community aspect and leave a legacy for how it leaves a footprint in Northampton to make sure that we build on it with the women's game and hopefully helping it continue to grow. So that's a good example of it. The master plan of the stadium and how we move forward. I'm involved in that side of things as well. And the other bit, I now oversee the Loughborough Lightning program, who are our partner club in the PWR, the Women's League for rugby. I sit at the top of that from the Northampton Saints point of view in terms of the partnership. I'm part of the executive leadership committee of the club heavily, but I also, it's probably a bit more of an unofficial role, but I'm the chair of the Northampton Saints Benevolent Fund. So that's a charity that I set up several years ago to look after former players whenever they were in times of need. So it happened maybe just before COVID that we had Rob Horn that had suffered a terrible injury, and Tom Smith was ill with cancer, and Alex Corbisiero and Reece Oakley had also cancer things. And I just thought, what can we do more as a club to help these guys whenever they finish? What can we do? Oh, and COVID came along, and it didn't seem the right time to go and start asking people to put their hand in their pocket to help people. So we parked it and then went back and revisited in 2023, and that sparked the whole thing off again. And I'm really proud that we got the charity up and running, working really close with the club and the Northampton Saints Foundation together. That we are now the only um, Premiership club that has a charity that looks after former players whenever they actually need it, whenever the time comes, and we can help them whenever they desperately need it. But not only that, we will help any staff members that have been here for a long period of time, because not everyone's lucky enough to be a player. Doesn't mean
Mm.
they haven't contributed.
Yeah.
So that's really important, and I would head up that and the former players group as well. So
Quite a wide-ranging role, really. So let's go back to the player recruitment. So for people listening to this, how easy is it to recruit the next Paul Shields or Courtney Laws
it's
into
easy
the
to get a
team?
Paul Shields. It's not easy to get a Courtney Laws. Put it that way. So I played in Courtney's debut back in the day, and yeah, he's done all right. He's done very well. But listen, it's not just me by myself. I work very closely with Phil Dowson and the rest of the coaches here, and understand what sort of player that they're actually after, and work very closely with Julia Chapman, the chief exec of the club, and the board in terms of the support and how we structure it. So we're a club that very much goes after. We would regard ourselves as a development club. And by that, I mean that we want to produce our own players and coach the life out of players to improve them, um, and focus on that bit and make them better players. So we're looking for people that are young, high potential, high character, fit that sort of criteria is really important to us. And we go out and we see the right endless lists of players that come through from agents, and you dig down into it, and you get who's the right one, who's the right player, who fits the criteria for what we're after from a performance point of view, and then we'll have a conversation with them. And character is really important to us. We have to know that someone's going to come into this environment and commit to what we're doing and compete every day and buy into the culture that we're doing and make sure that they're actually part of it. So rugby's a village. It's very small. I can find out about someone's character very quickly. I can pick up the phone, and I'm pretty sure within 2 or 3 phone calls, I can find someone that'll know a player and realistically what they're like. So it's easy enough to find the player sometimes.
Mm.
It isn't always as easy to get them here, get it across the line, get what you need out of it. And someone like Courtney Laws, the thing about replacing Courtney Laws is the sooner you accept that you're trying to replace a unicorn, then it gets an awful lot easier. You can't replace with a like for like. You have to look in a different direction. And we brought in Josh Kemeny from Australia, who's been absolutely fantastic and was Player of the Year in his first year. So yeah,
Mm.
so it's easy enough to find them. It's not always as easy to get them in the door.
I know we've talked about this before, but you mentioned character a lot, and there'd be quite a few recruitment people on here that maybe not used to recruiting with such a significant emphasis on character. How easy is it to assess somebody's character?
So if we're talking to a player online, you get a gut feeling for what they're actually like. You can trust in your gut with how they respond to the questions and the type of answers that they actually give. You have a gut instinct for what they're actually like now. But that's like any job interview. You don't actually know really what they're like until they're in the building. So we would rely on the resource that we have and the contacts that we have to get pretty honest appraisals for what people are like and what sort of red flags that we need to look for in character. When how do they adapt and respond whenever the pressure comes on, whenever they're not being picked, what sort of how are they in the environment. And we've got it wrong a couple of times. We don't always get it right. We've got it wrong a couple of times, but the learning for us is that if someone's going to give us an honest appraisal and we trust their opinion, then we have to listen to it. And if someone gives us an appraisal which has a couple of alarm bells or red flags, then we take that very seriously, because in this environment, if they're the right person, we feel that we feel that we can teach them and they're coachable. But if they care, it matters to them, and they're completely committed to what we're trying to do, and they have the ambition that we have, then that helps. If their driver is something that's not aligned with ours, they can be the best player in the world. It doesn't actually matter. They're not going to fit with what we actually want to achieve. They're going to be an outlier amongst our group, and that's not what we want. We want everyone pulling everyone pulling the boat in the right direction and in the same direction. And that's really important to us. And we put character as one of the strongest barometers for us in terms of what we're looking for in a player.
So you've obviously had a long and successful career. If you could give yourself, your younger self, one piece of advice, what would it be?
You can work a lot harder. Whenever you were training, whenever I was working, I always thought I was working hard. And it's only whenever I got deeper into my career that I realized that I could work an awful lot harder than what I was working. I thought I was working hard, but on reflection, you go, I could do more. There's always more that you can do. And I say to my own kids that if you're going to do it to the best of your ability, because one day you won't be able to do it anymore. So don't look back and say, I failed because I didn't try hard enough. And that's the big thing that sticks with me, because I certainly feel that I could have played more games for Ulster, more games for Northampton, more games for Ireland. I could have done an awful lot more, but that's down to me. That's not on anyone else apart from me in terms of my application and what I put into it. And I would definitely tell myself, you think you're working hard, you're not even close to it. There's infinitely more that you can do to be better. And I sort of apply that to all walks of life.
Well, great advice. And the last question, I can imagine you in tense situations before a big game or before an event that you're organising or when you're in the middle of recruitment. What role does music play in that to motivate, relax, inspire?
For me, it's massive. I used to I used to play my I used to have my favorite song as my ringtone for a phone, which used to annoy certain people because it wasn't always to their taste. But for me, it was a reminder that this might be a rubbish phone call, but hearing that song actually just puts a smile on my face and takes the edge off it and puts me into a better mood taking that phone call. And sometimes you drive along and you're on your way to work, or you got a rough day ahead, and it's music that you actually want to hear, or connecting with that song that just puts you in a good mood, or just reminds you of something, or takes you to a place that makes the hair stand up in the back of your neck, and that just takes all the edge off it for me. So music plays a massive role in that for me, and being able to sing along to it and be caught by the guy driving beside you singing at the top of your heart, and you just don't care because you're just in the moment. So it
Yeah.
plays a big part for me, really big part.
So I have to ask you, what was that song?
It's Starlight by Muse,
Okay.
and it still would be now.
Oh, there you go. What a great choice. Well, Paul, thank you very much for participating in Executive Groups. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Great fun. Always great to chat.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, Ian. Take care.
Well, I really enjoyed interviewing Paul and listening to what he said about his career and how he's transitioned into a role at Northampton Saints after a playing career. I was particularly interested in what he said about recruitment and the challenges of assessing the character of the players they bring into Northampton Saints Rugby Club. An interesting approach, no doubt a successful approach for Northampton Saints. And I'm sure there's a lot of recruitment professionals and other managers that would be interested in that approach built around character. Thank you for listening or watching today. As ever, if you have any suggestions of other people that I could interview to talk about their careers, just drop me a message, give me the details, and I'll take it from there. Thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you soon.